Knife Plus Heart from 2018 is often touted as a great example of a modern Giallo. So now, thanks to Noah and many of you others, I know you guys have been requesting this for a long time, I have finally watched it. It's hard to know where to begin with this one. It's admittedly a lot more complex than a lot of the films I've been watching, and I admittedly didn't really prepare for this, so this is another just sort of off the cuff kind of video. So bear with me, I'm gonna do my best. This will be a spoiler-free review. I am gonna be talking a little bit about the basic plot, but if you haven't seen the film, don't worry. Knife Plus Heart is a French film, again from 2018, and it's directed by Jan Gonzalez. I haven't seen anything he's done besides this. I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about these people, and I don't know very many French movies. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Your girl doesn't have complete context. I just have seen a lot of Jolly. This film is about a gay porn producer named Anne, and just kind of like following her daily life. So we learn a little bit about her as a person. She's an alcoholic. She's in a terrible relationship. And yeah, we just see a little bit of her day to day working in the porn industry and creating and shooting her videos. So all of a sudden, some sort of serial killer has infiltrated the gay scene and started killing people with a dildo knife. It's like a switchblade. It's like a switchblade dildo. And of course, Anne and her friends, being affected by these murders, become invested and play a part in solving the crime. Happy Pride, by the way. I should have started off with that. But this is a queer horror. And what I did not expect was that half of this movie was going to be an orgy. I feel bad this is the first thing I'm really mentioning about this movie. But it was like, okay, I thought it seemed very graphic, even though like everything was very strategically positioned. So you were actually seeing things happen, but you were seeing a lot of thrusting, you were seeing silhouettes, you were hearing a lot of moaning and groaning. And I think the thrusting and the moaning is what really made it pop. Like it made it really seem explicit, even though it wasn't necessarily. And it's funny because I was like, this is one of the most sexual movies I've ever seen, I feel. And then someone in the reviews was like, we need more nudity in this movie. Anyway, so this being set in the porn industry made me think about X a lot. Like I feel like this would be a good double feature with X. Let's talk about the characters. Obviously the main character is Anne, and she is played by Vanessa Paradis. I don't know how to say that. She was great. I mean, she's brilliant. You can tell she really knows what she's doing. And it was really interesting that her character was obviously a pretty messed up person and had a lot of issues and a lot of flaws. Like when I first saw her on screen, when I first saw her character, I thought she was like just a random loony person that wasn't going to be the main character. But no, she was the main character. But like once you get to know her, you find she's really likable and really graceful and highly functional despite all of her issues. So it was kind of interesting to see like both sides of her, see like the professional functioning side and then see like the side that's broken. I tended to like her, but what I did not like was her relationship with Luis, played by Kate Moran. I have very little patience for this relationship. It was really pissing me off. I don't care if it's been on and off for 10 years. It needs to stop. It brought out the worst in both of them. Actually, I have no idea. Why doesn't Lois talk? Why doesn't she communicate? If you do me wrong, I'm just blocking you. Bye, you know? And these two are just not like that. It was just so toxic. Ugh. Also need to shout out Archie, who is played by Nicolas Mori. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these right. I really liked him. I wish we got a little bit more from him. He was kind of like presented as a sidekick, but he was also sort of like an anchor. Like he was the comforting one. He's the one that you can like tell all your problems to, whatever. And I really liked his curly bleached hair in this. And aside from them, there are many, many characters in this movie. I understand why they did that. It was to give us more potential suspects and more potential victims, but they all kind of like felt flat and disposable, I guess. And let's talk about the setting. This is Paris in the late 70s. So it's very cool. It's very cool to see a portrayal of the gay community in Paris in the 70s. I mean, it's wild. And I think that's another thing that would be interesting to the Giallo fans. I feel like you could see the 70s a little bit, but in a lot of ways it just seemed like a very ambiguous time period. So let me talk about this killer. They are truly scary, but also like confusing. I don't know. Like I would hear all these sounds and I'm like, are these sounds coming out of the killer's mouth? Like I don't know what these noises are, and everything is just like happening so loud and so fast. Yeah, it was we don't get to see too much of the killer, except we see them like lurking. We are kept in the dark, I think probably for a little too long in this film. I'll get more into that later. But the killer, I think they looked cool, and the weapon was quite scary. And even though this movie sounds like it might be funny, it's not funny. It takes itself very seriously, and I feel even like the goofy porno shoot scenes don't really lighten the mood that much. When this killer strikes, it's pretty disturbing. It feels much more horror than the overdramatic traditional Giallo are. And I don't know if it was the music or what, but I was like, that very first kill had me like, I'm not old enough to watch this. This film definitely has a lot going on. Like thematically, story-wise, like there are a lot of layers, there are a lot of little elements, and probably a lot of symbols that I didn't even catch. It is one of those films that you could discuss for a long, long time. Aside from the fornication, the toxic relationship, and these brutal murders, the film does tap into some surrealism. We get some dreamlike sequences, a little trippy, you know what I'm saying? And we even take this mystical turn where it feels like freaking Alice in Wonderland or some kind of fairy tale. I was like, okay, so we're doing that too, huh? For a second, I was like, this film's about to be too overstuffed. But it didn't. I would say it didn't go too far in becoming overstuffed. It was just a side quest. But we do have a bird motif here that does harken back to the classical period of Giallo. Speaking of like the little dreamy moments, but yeah, there are several scenes that are very hypnotic, but also some that are just very picturesque. So I loved that little setting where they had a picnic out by the edge of the woods. I thought that was just so cute. It was like a poem. And also, this is the perfect time to mention that the way that these characters speak sounds like a poem. The language was very flowery. And I was like, is this just how French people talk? Since I know a lot of you guys have seen this movie, talking about like the mystical side of things, like going down that little fairy tale road, I will just say this, not a spoiler. When that like bird expert man lifts his hand up, I just busted out laughing. I was like, what is going on? For most of this film, I was thinking like, this is not really like a Giallo. I mean, yeah, there's a masked killer, offing people one by one, but I'm like, it just doesn't feel the same. Like, it doesn't have that feeling, or I don't know. I felt like something was missing. But then when I got to like the last stretch of the film, because like I said, we've been kept in the dark for a long time. This film didn't really like feed you too much. And I like when the mystery, you can sort of participate in solving the mystery because the film feeds you some clues. You don't really get too much of that in this movie. But towards the end of the movie, when we finally get to learn some things and like put some pieces together, I was like, oh, I get it now. It is a modern Giallo. Like, particularly in terms of the story and like there being a reveal and all of that. But I really liked that overarching story. I just wish it didn't take so long to like come to fruition, I guess. But I don't know how they would have done it any other way. But I just feel like the end stretch is what I really liked. Yet it was a long journey to get there. This film explored how life imitates art and vice versa, and I thought it was very beautifully expressed. And even though we are dealing with some like graphic adult content, the film also has some really, really tender moments. Like I said, this one is worthy of much more discussion because there's a lot to unpack and analyze. But for now, I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you so much to Noah for finally kicking me and making me watch Knife Plus Heart, or as my husband called it, Dick Plus Mouth. Of all the movies that Zach could join me for, that's the one he watched with me. New level of Giallo fan unlocked. Here I am, a girl who has seen Knife Plus Heart. Thank you. Have you seen this? What you think? What are your thoughts? Let a hoe know down below. And that does it for this video. Ciao. Hey, since we're on the topic of pride, look at my rug. Isn't that cute? I love it. I don't know if I've shown it to you guys or not.